I had a problem with is it got to a point to where I couldn't sleep at night. If anyone who needs to work, early in the morning and into the evening, you need to be able to get some rest. And on top of that, I was trying to keep myself fit, but none of that
Yeah.
mattered when I couldn't get any sleep. And I tell you, I mean, 3 or 4 days of not getting any sleep, and
Start to go
you're done.
crazy.
You're done. I mean, you start hallucinating and everything.
Definitely no fun. I'll tell you
Yeah.
one of my problems. I'm gonna let you come back in, but I want to talk about one of my problems. It was HD TV, it was a smart TV, right? I don't have any TVs now, like dead serious, no TVs in the house, because it's a giant weapon hitting you. And then when I used to like sit in front of TV, the newer ones, it started making my body hurt. So I was like, whoa, I gotta like, because at the time I didn't have anything for radiation shielding as far as just a phone thing where you put the case in there, the anti-tracking bag and stuff like that. That's all I had. So I ended up getting rid of the TV. And the whole thing, like the misconception about the RF shielding technology, some people was like, "Whoa, wait, is that pagan? It's because it's a pyramid, you know." And you
Yes,
got to
yeah.
clear those misconceptions up too, because I thought about that when I first got into it. I didn't know anything about it, and then I studied it, and then I now have it in my house. And so I wanted y'all to talk about some of those misconceptions too. Sleep deprivation comes from
Certainly.
Go ahead and talk about it. And again, the background, you being a Navy engineer, let people know about that too.
Yeah, so I mean, it's been over 15 years. That was why but I was a trained technician in the Navy, and anyone who's gone through the U.S. Navy, it's bar none when it comes to training like that. It's very intensive. But I had to fall back on that when I was going through my own, let's say, targeting back in 2014, and but my career continued. I ended up doing other things. Ended up moving here. It's how I met my wife. Engaged in another project dealing with renewable energy. But at the time, I was still suffering from being electrosensitive. And like you, I mean, I had situations where when I try to fall asleep at night, I was getting jolts and pulses that would keep me up, almost like an electroshock. So when you start to fall into REM sleep, you get this jolt, and you never can fall asleep. Also, if I was around Wi-Fi or areas of a lot of electromagnetic radiation, I'd get pulses on, jolts on my heart, on my body, and my nervous system. And I was like, this is extremely unusual. So I had to find a way to stop that, to find out what's going on. I had to fall back on my training and do a lot of research to get an idea of what's exactly happening. Now, at the time, we're living in another city, and we're in an apartment, a high rise, and we were surrounded by like 5 cell towers, within like a half a mile. And so started doing research.
Yeah.
A friend of ours gave us this puck that had aluminum filings in it. And they said, well, try this. This might help you sleep. Me being technical, I'm looking at this. So how can this help me? How can this possibly do anything? This, just have it next to you in the bed. So that was the first time I was able to sleep in 2 weeks at the time. I mean, that's how bad some of my insomnia got.
Yeah.
And I couldn't sleep for like weeks at a time. So after that, I started to do some research on what is this thing about having materials, specifically layers of conductive and plastic materials layered together. And then I ran across the work of the late Dr. Wilhelm Reich, and how he was explaining how, as human beings, we have a bioenergetic field around us. This field is in all living things. It has a strong connection to the electrical fields, but it's also a field on its own. It's a life force, if you will. But it couples to these other things. Now, he had to find a way in his research over a couple of decades to measure this field. So he started creating these devices called accumulators. And he found that these devices function and be able to capture this field, and creating boxes that were layers of metal and non-metal. So you get metal, then plastic, then metal, and these are the walls.
Oh, okay. So is that like surrounding the outside of the structure that you create, like when you created the RF like pyramid thing or whatever? Or is it like just inside of it?
You're right. So this is the beginning of the technology. So I'm basically going back to how we go from like these resin plates here that you see to from the accumulators that he developed. Because when he made these boxes, he'd make like a wooden frame structure, like you would like any other large box that you can sit in. He'd put like maybe press board around it. But then what he started doing is taking sheets of steel steel sheets that fit the wall, one of the sides. They then put like either sheep's wool or some kind of plastic, like a fiberglass layer as the next layer. And then he kept repeating the layers of metal and non-metal for that one wall. And he did it on all the sides of the box. So it's almost like a capacitor, and you're making a box out of it. And when he did that, he found out that you had a change in pressure, change in temperature, and this basically this field that's inside the box by creating these layers. He confirmed this effect with one of his assistants, where there's this temperature difference from the inside the box, constant from the inside the box to the outside the box. He took the work to Einstein, or at least one of his assistants, and that whole thing got blocked. He was like, that's not possible.
Wow.
You can't have a temperature difference because it basically points to an energy field that is continuous. So his work went on from there. And when you progress forward to today, that understanding of layers of metal and non-metal has been taken to this part where you have a puck, that's epoxy resin, which is the plastic, and you have the metal, which is the filings on the inside. So when people have composites like that and they call it orgonite, understand it comes from a scientific basis. The way it works is scientific.
5G wireless may lead to inaccurate weather forecasts due to radiation leakage. Now, they'll tell you that radiation leakages happen due to weather forecasts, but they can't tell you it's coming from a cell tower. And so what do you think if we go from here? That's SciTech Daily. Where do you think it goes from here, since we already know everything is being deployed on us right now? And then you can get into how we beat this stuff, and back to the stuff you were talking about.
Well, one thing I can say is there's a series of studies, lawsuits actually, about cell phone towers. So the companies that are putting up these towers, they know exactly what their technology does. And there's many, many lawsuits against it. I don't have it at hand, but you can look it up and you can find in their brochures talking about their technology, they have all these disclaimers that they can't be sued, because they have been sued in many different countries around the world. Italy is one where somebody sued the cell phone towers for, I think it was brain damage.
Yes.
And they won the lawsuit.
It's really big in the EU.
So they know
look it up.
what their technology does. And so now they have their latest layer of technology, the 5G, which in our opinion, based on many of the studies that we've seen, is more harmful than even the 4G before it. So
yes,
yeah.
Yeah, but they keep saying,
We should
well,
remember the
5G ain't that bad. Just get the 5G, put it on around your house. Well, why would they tell you that? Because they want you to be decimated. Again, and it all come back down to our health. We can talk about all this crazy stuff in the world. It really comes down to our health. And so just like we were talking about, when we talked about in the early goings of the year, what was coming, the 5G rollout. Now I see more commercials about kids having cancer. Kids did not used to get cancer this fast. And for the most part, most kids are in the phone all day. Okay, it's ways you can help your children out, and you can stop most of the radiation that's hitting you. And I know 6G is coming too. That's even crazier to talk about. But as we get into this, the phone cases y'all have, I see y'all have some sleeping pods and everything. I actually haven't seen the sleeping pods. How does that work? Because
Can I talk about
go on.
I see some fabrics as well and stuff that people put around their beds and stuff to stop radiation as well. So let us know about that. That's a sleeping pod right there.
So this is the sleeping pod, and this is by far our most popular product that we make. And it's started a while back because, as Tavon was saying, he was having trouble sleeping. So was I. I had the same problem. So I asked him, because he was making pendants first. He started with pendants and some plates and things. And I said, could you make something that I could have in bed with me, that I could hold up against me or maybe put under my pillow, because I was having a hard time sleeping. And when I put a pendant on, I felt an immediate calm come over me. But I had that same kind of thing he was talking about, that joltiness. You know, when you sit in front of the computer screen for way too long and you start to get really irritated, that's what was happening. And I totally insomnia level stuff. It was awful. It was ruining my life. And I had it for years and years and years. So he made the sleeping pod for me. And that was 3 years ago, I think.
Yeah, maybe 3.5, something like that.
I sleep like a baby every single night.
It's come out in studies that they had anti-radiation, and then the link is in the comments, everybody. And
Yes.
they had basically areas like the Egyptians. They had big giant pyramids, and it was radiation resistant, RF resistant. Like they're serious. You can look at studies on that we wanted to get out.
Mhm.
Also, I know a lot of people during this lockdown has not been getting as healthy. And it's been people saying, "Oh, I can't go to the gym." So what? You need to go outside and then go do an exercise. And I do lots of different exercises in nature. I could also talk about that as well, and then put that into the report. But if you're exercising, here's the thing: you don't want to exercise next to a giant radiation cell tower. You don't want to exercise in a house full of Wi-Fi, seeking in all the stuff in your skin, unless you have the materials you need to combat that. And so we're basically presenting this because we only present stuff that really helps. And if I don't believe in something, of course, I won't even bring it up. So how long have y'all been watching the channel? And then with everything with the health situations going on, y'all lead scientists obviously is against 5G, but with everything going on, what do you think about, them saying the military is going to give us vaccines, and that's coming by the end of the year? The NHS is talking about by Christmas they expect, everybody to be getting jabs or something like that. How does that tie in to the 5G agenda? And how does all this basically tie into just desecrating our health, trying to get us to stay inside and say, "Oh, I ain't got a gym to go to, so I can't do anything no more, and there's nothing I can do. I just got to sit on the couch and it's the end of the world." No, that's not the mentality we got to have. We got to have the mentality like, look, you're gonna try to stop me from doing this, I'm gonna find another way. You're gonna try to stop me from making money like this, I gotta find another way. It's always a mentality we gotta have, and we can never break and fold. So going into that, what do you think all of it is going to lead to as they continue to attack our health over and over and over again? And so I'll just let you have the floor on that one.
Do you want to? I'm going to get out in time, but
exactly. The questions anybody have about it right now that they want to ask, and then also, what's some other questions about just something you want to do, like fitness wise, or how can you get away from certain radiation, specific things? Just somebody says, we'll be looking at the sleeping pods. And somebody says, and I had an air purifier. We'll be looking at the sleeping pods, Nefarious68 says. Somebody says, excellent. You can buy RF shielding clothes. That's another thing. Do y'all have any RF shielding clothes coming in the future?
Actually.
All right, cool.
We are.
Yeah, go on, break it down.
It's not developed yet, but it's coming up. Because we're in Morocco, there's a lot of artisans here that make beautiful, beautiful things. And one thing, we have a good friend who makes Moroccan leather bags, which are very popular, and they're kind of high end. But we're going to be lining custom-made Moroccan leather bags with EMF shielding materials. It's like a silver material, right?
Yeah, it's like a silver fabric. But you can make linings out of it, and that's what you're talking about with the clothes too.
So it's still at least a couple months away before it's ready to.
So this it's not only changing the field, it's like what you explained in one of your earlier videos. It reflects, it diffracts, it scatters these frequencies, these narrow pulses that are traveling across your skin. That's what's giving you the jolts. So if you're taking these pulses and you're flattening them out, it doesn't have the same effect. So you're basically you're dampening these pulses.
And then if somebody had an EMF reader, sorry for cutting you out. If somebody had an EMF reader, wouldn't they also be able to tell that the radiation went down inside the house? Because that's another way you can also know that it's actually effective too. So.
Well, this is where it gets interesting. It depends on what the materials are. So the orgone technology itself, if I just had a puck with a bunch of steel filings in, it may or may not block incoming radiation. The data will still get through. If you have it from your Wi-Fi, it'll still get to your computer. Depends on what it's made from. Just like any other RF shielding type material, it depends on what it is. So we say that, so this would be like a transforming technology. It changes from one form and turns it to another, so that's more compatible with your plants, your animals, and your body. But on top of that, you have to take basic EMF protocols also around your home, and then we do a video that also describes that as well.
like one analogy I use to try to explain how they work is that it doesn't just block energy, it transforms it. So it's kind of like a water filter. So you have dirty water in one cup, and then you pour it through a filter and it cleans it. And now you have another cup with clean water. And you're saying, well, how many EMFs is that? But it's still one cup of water. You haven't changed the volume, but you've changed whether it's dirty or clean.
Yeah.
And the way that you can measure that is around things like plants.
Yeah.
Is a great idea. Like if you had clean water and your plants grow very well versus dirty water, the plants are not growing as well. So there's tests and measurements that have been done using this natural technology that shows that the energy, it cleans up the dirty electricity, the EMFs, the dirty electricity, it cleans it up so that the cellular structure of living things can grow and flourish like they're supposed to without being bombarded by the pollution.
Also, what you described as water is a great analogy. Yeah. Well, with the energy field, what's happening is that these materials are, water absorbs this energy. So one of the tests she was referring to is done by the University of Pennsylvania. Only in the past couple of years, they replicated the Wilhelm Reich accumulator experiment where they had a little small box of steel and cotton, layers of steel and cotton in it. And they put plant seedlings inside this box, and they compared it to the control box, which is a wooden box with seedlings in there. Mm-hmm. And the seedlings grew most of them germinated within the accumulator box, and they also grew quicker and healthier. And the only conclusion they can draw, trying to isolate all the variables and replicating this old experiment that's decades old, is the water that went into this box absorbed the energy that's inside that box, and the plants obviously took in the water, and they became healthier. So these materials are giving the water, because we're water beings, and obviously most living things have water in them. They're absorbing this energy through the water, and that's why we tend to sleep easier and things because of this kind of technology. And
we live in a desert climate here in Marrakesh, Morocco, and we have an oasis. We have a natural organic garden outside. That's how I get a lot of my exercise, is out there gardening. And our plants are growing better than anywhere else because we have these garden pucks. We make it into these little garden pucks, and we put it all throughout our garden, which creates that environment that helps the plants to grow bigger, better, stronger, more nutrients in the vegetables, things like that.
Yeah. Somebody says, does the bracelets do the same thing as the pendant? When basically you talked about the field of it and how big it was across the torso, how far does the bracelets go? And they want the information on that. So go ahead and lay it down.
Yeah, so basically the bracelet is dependent, just with an extra hole drilled in so that you can, fit it around your wrist. And we made the bracelet based on the testimony of one of our customers who claimed that when they bought the pendant, they had, I think it was like an MS situation or carpal tunnel with their hand. And they said they got this pain when they were typing because they're always on the keyboard, and they had this pain in their hand that wouldn't go away. So they thought it might have been like an MS type situation. Anyway, they said they took their pendant off, and they just happened to have it. They were holding it while they were working. And the pain in their hand.
Did the pain shoot down to about right here?
No, he said it's more like his should get a camera here. His wrist area, like around here. He says around there.
Oh yeah, that spot when you're doing the mouse.
When you're doing all that stuff.
Yeah, because when the new phones came out, my hands was getting shocked. I'm not even lying to you. It was getting shocked. And so what I did, I just put an RF strip on the back, but that ain't enough. After a couple of years, it still didn't work. So yeah, my hands was literally getting shocked because they said the percentage on the new phones was like way above average, and they came out with their report. The FCC talked about it.
And by the way, I know what you mean, Stephen, about because I used to get that too. With I'm just when I start dialing, I get the tingles in my fingers. I used to get the tingles in my fingers.
Yeah,
I'm like, really? The tingles in my fingers are tingling. When does this happen? And then So with the phone shield, again, it's absorbing the sharp. It's like we're talking about very narrow pulses of data, and with the intensity that's coming off of these phones and this equipment, your nerves are so sensitive to them. And now there's another thing dealing with the sensitivity that we can talk about in another show if we got time, is dealing with their diet. So you really have to eliminate the refined white flour and the sugar from your diet, because that boosts everything up. And with that, with the heavy metals in your body, you're like an antenna. But the thing is that was responsible for the sensitivity. But to also get rid of that is this phone shield, again, dampens that effect on the phone.
I want to thank y'all for coming on